Yesterday we talked about how you should always have a question in mind when you play. And as an example, I wanted to share what mine has been. I play a relatively aggressive role on my team. I'm one of the players who's most likely to initiate a fight. Since I'm the one who's going to see a fight and decide to take it before anyone else, it'll more often fall to me to call that fight out for my teammates to know about it and follow up on it. And I've been inconsistent with that in the past. When I play with one of our other frontliners in particular, the two of us will tend to initiate our own separate fights, often on opposite sides of the map. And if you've seen my video on team coordination, you'll know that that's to be avoided. And if you haven't seen my video on team coordination, go watch it, because I swear that's the most useful video I've ever made for coordinated teams, and the algorithm just really doesn't like it. So my question has been, am I calling fights well enough that I'm actually getting help in them? It's still something I'm working on, but I had a significant success with it that I'd like to share here. It's right at the beginning of a game of Scorch Gorge Rainmaker. We don't communicate far enough in advance about whether we're going for the Rainmaker pop, so one of us goes down to try and get it, while another is starting to say not to go for it, and we end up losing a player to the explosion, so we have to chill out for a minute. If we push into mid, we're going to be outnumbered, so we'd rather sit back far enough that if one of them tries to run at us before our teammate gets back, they're having to charge into a heavily protected choke point without all of their teammates. That exact error happens, we punish it and get one, and knowing our fourth member is back now, I recognize that we have a numbers advantage and it's time to take some space back while we're stronger. The whole time I'm going to be heavily painting the left side here. I want to push forward, and a tactic they could in theory use to stop me from doing that is to hunker down in the low ground here, where if I try to move in the direction I want, forward, they have my back. So by going here, they would slow me down a lot and stall for their team to have more time to get back in. By cutting them off from the left side, they're forced to back up along the objective line instead of perpendicular to it, and we can advance on the objective line more quickly. At first, it seems like they might be able to stop me from pushing left any further, because they station 2 players looking in that direction, but they start rethinking that decision and backing up when they see the bombs that my teammate is throwing. I don't want them to be able to just back up, because if they're left unpressured, they'll get super jumps in from their teammates and we'll lose our numbers advantage sooner. When they start to cave, I use the paint from the bombs and start to push forward, and here I start calling for my teammate to push right. In the same way that we did earlier to get the numbers advantage, they could stop us even though they're at a disadvantage if we isolate ourselves by pushing through this one heavily defended choke point. But if we push the right side and the left side at the same time, now they have to focus on 2 different directions at once. My teammate immediately responds to the call to go right. Insanely good response time on that. I'm starting to look over to try and push it. Move from right, move from right. But they have further that they need to move than I do, so I don't sprint at the left side right away. I stall as long as I can before I engage to give them time, so that we hit the enemy team at exactly the same time from those 2 angles. While I move up, I continue to paint the left side disproportionately, because while I'm not worried about them getting to the left pit area at this point, now I'm trying to keep them stuck between me and my teammate. If they do decide to try and fight me, it has to be along this line on the right, so it'll be easier for me to see them coming and easier for me to aim at them. It also makes it so that I can get a full 180 degrees around them from my teammate. I use repetition in my callouts to create a sense of urgency and make it clear that the fight is imminent and give them a sense of the timing at which they need to engage from the other side, since neither of us can see each other right now. I'm starting to look over to try and push it. Move from right, move from right.
I'm looking at right.
Go right, go right, go right. Go, no, go, 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 go. I win the first fight cleanly. They had a teammate jumping in, and it made it harder for them to see me for an instant, so I was able to use that to trick them about where to aim. The second player could splat me here, but they just super jumped in, so they don't have a lot of time to figure out where I am, and they missed some shots, in part because they switched to dual reticle mode. Meanwhile, once I start aiming them, I hit my first 3 shots right away. Here is where I benefit a lot from my teammate pushing right. They don't actually win that engagement, going down without trading, but because they took it, one of the players on that side is weak, that is, they're damaged, and they were too late to help their teammates stop me on the left side. The 2 of us trade, leaving only 1 player up. Because of my shot call setting up a pinch between right and left, my teammate and I got 3 enemy players, despite ending up in a 2v4, setting up a 2v1 for our remaining teammates, which they end up winning cleanly, and getting the team an easy dunk on first checkpoint in just the first 45 seconds. Ideally, we take this slightly faster so the enemy dualies don't have time to jump in, but otherwise this is a great example of the importance of engaging the enemy team, by the definition in FLC's Fluid Priorities and Roles document, and of how callouts can produce team coordination.